colonialism is not over, right?
Word.
It's not over. This is still going on to this day. And the absurdity is, I'll give you an analogy. You have a community of houses, and there's one neighbor who decides that he deserves more than the other people. So he starts going over to other people's houses and stealing their food and going into the pantry while they're at work and stealing stuff and enriching himself, right? And after a while, he gets more emboldened. He starts unhooking their plumbing and their electricity and their water and takes it over to his house. And when somebody objects, he throws a brick to their window and says it was a neighbor. And he starts pitting them against each other.
Oh,
right?
wow.
And they start fighting, and there's violence, and he starts giving guns to one so they can kill the other, and giving guns to them to kill the other, and he starts, creating all this chaos, craziness and chaos and violence. And it goes on for years and years and years. So after a while, now his house is the biggest house in the neighborhood, and he's got a compound because he's sort of gotten some other houses, paid cents on a dollar because the neighborhood is in uproar, the community is dilapidated and destroyed, so people have nothing to eat anymore. And then all of a sudden, people start coming over to his house, right? Because he's the only one on the block who's got food, who's got shelter, who's got security, so they're jumping over fences and sleep in his backyard, and they work for scraps and work in his kitchen, and he calls them violent intruders, scum of the earth. He calls the police on them, and the police removes them back to their houses. But they don't exist anymore, right? Because they're dilapidated and destroyed. The whole community is destroyed. There's violence everywhere. Nothing works anymore.
Yeah.
So the absurdity is not that people come knocking. The absurdity is that America, France, England, they're shocked. They're appalled that all these people are fleeing rubble to get to abundance. Especially when that abundance is built on the destruction, the death, the exploitation,
the theft
of all these other houses, all these other people.
That's a great analogy.
Right? So that's where we're at.
Yeah.
And that's not over. That's still going on. No. France is still taking $500 billion a year out of Africa right now.
Billion.
Out of their 14 ex-colonies because they made them sign the pact of the continuation of colonization back in the late 50s. And they had no choice but to sign.
And what does that look like? Because that means, so whenever these 14 countries that are, part of that, like when they have goods that they want to export, they can't because...
Yes, they can, but they have to export them to France.
They have to export them to France.
And then have to buy back. They have to buy back the products. They export the natural resources, the raw materials, and then they have to buy back the products from France.
With their money.
With their money. Now, France also forces them to spend to give up to 85% of their GDP to France. Up to 85%, right? They force them to give them French companies the first right of refusal for every public or private contract, right?
So if they say, hey, we got some cocoa beans here, we want to sell it to America.
No economic sovereignty,
wow.
No food sovereignty, no power sovereignty, right? Because they're forced, again, to export their resources to France and then buy back the products to survive. That's what's going on right now.
And this is why the countries are kicking them some...
exactly, and that's why, and France is taking the $500 billion and they invested in the stock market in France to the tune of trillions of dollars. Africa's not getting that. France is keeping that. And if somebody speaks up, they turn off the faucet of the currency because France is printing the currency for those 14 countries. That's why now you have people like President, like
Burkina
Faso.
What's the other guy? Niger and
Mali, Niger.
Those guys.
Exactly.
I'm glad this happening. It's
who
real.
Are getting together.
Yes.
And they're kicking out France because what happened before, if a country said no, France would pour concrete in their sewage system, in their water supply. They would destroy the schools and the hospitals before they leave, right? Then they would come in with mercenaries.
Yeah.
And they would take people out. Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, right?
Yeah.
That's what's going on right now. So colonization is not over.
154, we all connected, baby, you already know. I'm talking 154. We bringing Africa around the whole globe. Ain't no place like home. Ain't no place like home. Ain't no place like home. Ain't no place like home.